So before I start this review, obviously the news has now come out that One Punch Man Season 2, which was originally scheduled to air in winter 2020, is now coming out in April 2019. So I was going to do a video about Season 2 and like the possibilities of what it could hold and things like that, and you know, but it's actually bumped forward about like about 9 months. So you might be wondering, hey Matt, what do you think of that? Well, like my little friend here, just do a... I've been saving that for like 4 months. Not worth it. One Punch Man 94, I see, was a good chapter. I liked it because obviously, well, first of all, I don't actually have too much to say about it in comparison to like some of those like 30-40 minute reviews that I can do at times, despite the fact that this is the longest chapter of One Punch Man that's ever come out. And I think this chapter does a lot of things like good. Obviously it was action and it was a good chance to see what all these support heroes could do, at least all the main ones that we see, as well as a glimpse of what the S-Class heroes could do as well. And I think it's just, I think really to me this whole thing is a good example of the kind of characters that One and Murata like to write about and draw about, and just, you know, it's classic One Punch Man in that sense, without obviously Saitama being involved. So yeah, let's start talking about it. So the chapter starts off at the beginning where obviously all the heroes are going in to City Z, because obviously the monster's there, and as they enter there they notice King's disappeared. And I feel like, well, the first bit is just to kind of show, look at all the great people we've got here. So you got people obviously like all the cool and cute designs, so you obviously got people like Needle Star, Captain Mizuki, Zombie Man, you know, all these characters that people have grown to really like. Well, I imagine that they've grown to really like, because I like those guys, and it's basically them going like, ah, well, he's not here, but he will have done a fine job in any case. And the one bit I'm just taking from this, there isn't too much, it's just Child Emperor. He's like, oh, well, maybe he's gone off because he doesn't respect me enough because I'm a child. And this might be something, obviously this seems to be a problem Child Emperor's had for a while now, which is his old attitude, which makes sense really, because he's a child in a group of adults, and he's constantly worried that he's going to be looked down upon and not treated equally because he's a child, despite all the like the hard work he puts in. And you know, I suppose the first example we saw of this was back in the invasion arc when Boris attacked, was when obviously they were like, well, if your child like you has to go somewhere, like if you, like this is an adult conversation, he kind of stuck around for that. And I think this is going to be like kind of his character development, if he has any. It's just going to be him kind of coming to terms with this, which isn't really fair on him considering he's a child, but at the same time it makes sense. If he wants to play with a grown-up, sometimes he's got to be a bit more mature, but he's obviously got other things that only a child can do at times too. So I think that's going to be his whole thing. Meanwhile, very quickly, monsters start to approach them, and we see a new monster. They're getting surrounded quite quickly, and the intro to this monster was so great, because it's just something you spot in the distance. At first I wasn't sure if it was just a piece of cloth flying in the air, and then it lands, and then the arms come out, and they flicker, and then like train cars come down, like about... boom, bucks them in, so they are fully surrounded. It was really clever, and then like this full-on like creepy like giant monster with eyes on his arms. I believe his name was Jagan. I'm gonna get names wrong a lot, I'll be honest. And it was such, I loved his design. That was like the first great panel of the whole chapter. Like obviously all the art's good, as it always is, but then just that was so amazing, that panel of Jagan and Tatsumaki, just like, he's like, well, and then like it's so detailed, it's so fantastic. It was just a great way to quickly start off the chapter. Right there, if you look at that chapter, and of course we know, I doubt many people thought Tatsumaki was going to struggle, but I think at that point it just does such a great job of what this guy can do. So like they both have the same energy, so we know that he's a psychic. However, the difference in skill is just clear because of that. Obviously, like he has the energy just at his fingertips, right? But Tatsumaki, she's overflowing with this energy. Her whole body, that's her at normal. Like she's not panicked, she's not worried, she's just looking like... It's just the scale, the difference in power between them. And I feel like they tried to create the tension of, you know, whether, you know, what kind of, because it said disaster level unknown with Jagan. I should make sure that's his name. It is, yes, good on me. And his design was awesome. And something, I just like quickly skimming through just to make sure that, something else I love about like the detail that One and Murata go to is just like, well, I imagine this is more Murata because obviously it's him, is we have the guy with the claws, right? And if, like, when they started surrounding, like, we've got no choice but to fight, if the claws just popped out, I would have accepted that and that would have been fine. But he loves to go to these extra little details, so we see the rings around his fingers. When he, like, forms a fist, they pull, and then that's how the claws come out. Just, like, such small details like that. I love it. It's great. He didn't have to do that, but he did, and it was wonderful. Genuinely, I appreciate that so much. I really do. You know, he starts to be like, he's like, oh, well, you're all surrounded heroes, giving the usual speech kind of that they do, and, you know, and to show, like, his kind of strength, and I suppose the whole point is to make people mostly worried, is that, you know, he's like, disaster level unknown. Next thing you know, he's picking up buildings, and they're not like just houses, these are towers that he's picking up with his telekinesis, and he's gonna throw down on them. And of course they're all worried, except for the S-Class heroes, because Tatsumaki, she immediately puts up a barrier and just, like, stops his massive attack like it's nothing. And it's just great kind of seeing the, I suppose, if I had to gauge where he is, I would put Jagan kind of low-level dragon. Which says a lot, because, like, dragon tiers can vary a lot, because at the end of the day, like, that's a very powerful technique, and I don't imagine a demon level doing that at all. I could see someone on the same kind of strength as Elder Centipede doing that kind of thing, but, like, obviously, he's not an executive, so we obviously don't know his kind of power level. Like, he's kind of forced together, and I imagine he was probably one of the many experiments like Gyoro, as he said, you know, he made clear, like, oh, well, he was basically a weak monster who had surgery on him, combined with all the other weak monsters, to do this in the eyes of the representative of each hero, like each monster hero's killed, things like that. So I imagine he's like one of the previous experiments trying to get to this god level threat. Well, like basically this next Orochi even. I'd imagine it's a god level threat. Well, yeah. Well, unless, because if Orochi's, I don't know, we don't know what tier Orochi is, but I'm trying to say that there's so many different tiers of dragon, because you've got still like that, but I couldn't see him beating someone like Boros, who has the physical ability to kick someone to the moon. You see, there's too much of a power gap in Dragon, especially Dragon. Yeah. So obviously Tatsumaki stops the barrier, and this was the first funny bit, is like, I was like, oh, fair play Tatsumaki, she saved everyone. No. The moment, like, she stopped the main attack, but the debris she couldn't care about less, in a similar way to Saitama with the meteor. Like, he obviously stopped the meteor, but he's like, I saved the city, and then obviously all the houses got destroyed and people were in trouble. So it's that kind of, I think what I'm trying to say is, I said about how one of them had to write characters, and the thing is they make them human. Like, no one is just a one-note character. Like, as if there was one, it would obviously be some of the monsters who get beaten, because we find out everything about them and then they're just gone. That's it. So we've seen this a lot in the past with monsters, all the way from the beginning, from Vaccine Man to Jagan here. Literally in this chapter, he gets taken down very easily by Tatsumaki. We don't see the fight, but she obviously, she's not struggled. She doesn't have any bruises or blood or anything like that. She didn't struggle in that fight whatsoever. She obviously is on a different tier to him. So what I'm trying to say is the humans are humans. Like, this is something I love about it, is like, there's no character in this series really, like, apart from, like I said, Moomin Rider maybe, where they have just like one note of a character. Like, their personality can change depending on the situation that they're in. Especially, like, the main characters that we learn. So, obviously, like, for example, Tatsumaki in this chapter, she's very much like her standard self, but the moment Jagan brings up Fubuki, he's, like, she snaps and she changes. Like, you literally see her face change from that panel, like, the panel before, she's like, oh, whatever. The moment he's like, oh, I believe you have a sister, don't you? Like, her face changes, and, like, the moment she does that is when, like, the tornado of terror shows up, and the proper, like, clouds are swirling and everything, and, like, because obviously, like, she doesn't care about a lot of people, but she genuinely does care about a lot about her sister. So she's going in, and she's doing this, and she's doing that, and I thought that was a great touch. And, like, I feel like this is it for most of the characters in this. Yeah, and I suppose it shows the power difference, and the reason I kind of put Jagan at, like, demon level is because, this is going much longer than I thought, is mostly because when I see, just because of reactions, like, high demon, low dragon, mostly because of how the S-Class heroes reacted compared to the A, Bs, and Cs. The A, Bs, and Cs are worried, but the S-Class heroes are just, like, nothing. So obviously, Tatsumaki blocks the initial debris, like, not blocks the initial attack, and the S-Class heroes cover the debris. So obviously you've got ones like, obviously, you got, like, the Angel Beats from Puri Puri, you know, like, I loved Dark Alloy, who was just like, You guys okay? And it just smashes on his head, cracks open, he's not even phased, that massive boulder. And on top of that, we see a Mime Mask. And this is kind of like, we don't see many feats of his, of course, because he's a big mystery. I imagine it's going to come into play in a later arc, especially whenever Saitama gets into Class A, and eventually he gets to that point where he moves up to Class S, and that's when a Mime Mask is going to be a real part of the story. But like, he grabs a boulder like it's like, I say a boulder, a chunk of debris like it's nothing, and he just tosses it back as he insults the other members of the association. He's like, you know, you're support heroes, yet you're not supporting us, da 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 da. And then he's like, you're supposed to support us. And then I just love Needle Star's comment, like, you're a support hero too. He says it in his head. He doesn't dare say it out loud, and I don't blame him. But it's just really good. So obviously, as Tatsumaki goes off to fight against Dragon in the sky, all the other heroes see him, and they're like, oh, these guys have nobodies. Let's see what they can, like, we'll get them out of the way. And we get to see some really, like, I just like how everyone's got these varied fighting styles. No one's got the exact same fighting style, and I just like how everyone works and does their thing. So kind of the X-Class heroes mostly stay on the side for this, and I'm fine with that, because like I said, when it gets to like the monster executives, they're not going to be able to do as much. So when obviously like the clown's just like, here, then like just like throwing swords and throwing swords and bowling pins and everything, and like knocking them out and attacking them and hurting them, but then they juggle back, so I think it's a he. The name's Twin Tail, so I would assume a girl, because obviously the twin tail hairstyle, but I think they made it clear it's a guy from that Puri Puri moment later on. So obviously he's doing his thing, you know, and then you got the sniper, and just like his bits of detail once again. So like you got that sniper monster who's like, oh, I'll take that down the clown when no one's looking. He's got the gun. That might be a separate monster, because obviously when he shot the bullet, like it spit it out from a mouth on the side. I was like, that's a cool design. And then we see the sniper, can't remember the name, put it down below, and he takes him out, and then obviously they're like, and he's got like a good eyesight on him, and then we're like, oh, we'll get him, and then he just does all that like basically gun fu. He basically does some gun fu. He's like, you underestimated me because I'm weak, and then like that seems like a common trait, of course, of a close range, of like snipers obviously, or long range attackers. They're weak at close range. So when he challenges that trope, and he's all like, and he's like, wow, excellent gun noises, Matt. When he's obviously he does that thing where obviously he's taking down everyone, and it's super cool. And everyone's like, whoa! And it's only literally the moment his gun's jammed, like he's got so much confidence in his gun that the moment his gun jams, he's like, I can't do this, I can't, and he runs off. That's such a good quirk. It's different, and I like it, because you expect him to be like, oh no, I can't do anything at close range, and he does, and he's awesome. And I give the credit to him where the credit is due. So it's a different day. And realising over that day that I am probably going on for too long about this, so I'll try and shorten it down. Carrying on, I want to talk about Green, because Green is a character I'm very interested in, mostly because of his abilities. Because the thing is, in the One Punch Man, I talked about this before, abilities are quite grounded. They're not like, so there's no one who can like, oh, I can fly on my own, like without psychic abilities, or I could turn into animals. They're all quite kind of grounded, so it's pretty much like, you know, just peak physical abilities. So obviously just people like Saitama, or like the martial artists, the ninjas, the samurai, or if not, they're either cyborgs or psychics, and even psychics I can justify. But the idea that someone can control plants is so out there to me. It's something like that kind of threw a curveball to me in my live reaction. I had to stop for a minute, because like I said, everything's been so grounded, and he says, you know, they've been implanted on him since birth, like these plants have. So maybe he's part of some experiment, and if we learn more about him, I'd love to learn more about him, because maybe he's got a whole not Dr. Cuseno, Dr. Gina's thing with the House of Evolution going on. Maybe he was part of the House of Evolution. Maybe he's part of another group that we're going to meet in the future. I'm very curious to learn more about this guy, because he can control plants, and that's extremely rare in One Punch Man. That's an actual superpower, you know? And to keep it brief with everyone else, but I have to talk about Narcissus Stoic. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I love him. It's classic One Punch Man comedy, because he just comes in, he's like, sweet mask, watch my elegant attack. And I'd be curious about this guy, because he's had such a ridiculous design. The first time we see him, his chin goes over the panel, it's sticking out over the page, and he gets attacked by this other giant chin monster. And he's just like, shut up, you small chinned idiot. And just his fighting style, I love it so much. It's great. Michael, good, yeah. Just like punching the guts, knees him, he puts a cinder block on his head, and then he just catches the rose before, like, ties, like, elegant execution. He dabbed. Oh my god, I just realised he dabbed. He dabbed! So we've also got that guy who, like, and the joke of that was as well, my mask wasn't even paying attention to him. He's paying attention to the Wolverine, like, the mid-air assassination guy. So, yes, just going quickly over the others, because I've realised I talked about this for too long. Let's see, the ninja was awesome. I like that that the real was a girl, and we saw a bit of Flashy Flash. So Flashy Flash is really observant, and we know that apparently girls can't be ninjas. And, you know, there's definitely more history with the ninjas there. I really want to see it. Then we've got Needle Star. I like his design. I liked what he could do a lot. That was also really good. Interesting stuff with the ball. Like, he controlled it so effortlessly, and, like, when he curved it round, and then there's just that really funny moment where he goes, with, like, we'll attack you close range. That must be your weakness. He just grabs the ball, bashes him over the head, and just carries on flinging it around. It was great. And then Mizuki was awesome too. I'm a big fan of Mizuki. She's just doing all this amazing stuff. Her weapon's incredible. She's just really nice. And they even got a cultural reference in. Well, I say cultural reference, it's just a bit of a fetish, really, if it is a fetish, because there are women online who can squeeze actual watermelons with their thighs and, like, break them. So yeah, fair. Okay, Murata, you got that there too. Yeah, she was just awesome. I loved her weapon, like all these different sporting equipment. So she had like she had a javelin, a pole vault, and like she can make it into a hammer throw. It was fantastic. I love that stuff too. And like I think the relationship between her and Dark Alloy is really interesting too. Well, maybe because they both probably come from sporting backgrounds. I only say that just because the more I see it after seeing Captain Mizuki, Dark Alloy's got a very he's wearing just like obviously he's wearing just a little he's wearing a Speedo. So I think if anything, like, maybe he was probably a bodybuilder, and that's kind of where he's come from more than anything, because it actually makes sense the more I thought about it. And especially with how muscly he is, it all adds up. So maybe he, like, is taking an interest in Mizuki because she comes from a sporting background as well, a competitive background. So, yeah, they could have a cool, like, a cool relationship. Maybe because there's all these different factions, she might end up joining a faction under Dark Alloy. Because Dark Alloy, he's a good guy. I like him. He's a nice guy. So she broke the watermelon monsters, and everyone's watching these, and then we get to see some of the other ones. So obviously we have like Fatty Futoshi, who has to keep eating and to keep moving, like he moves pretty fast. We've got I can't remember his name, put it down below. The nose guy, where he's got like this nose-centered fighting style, like he literally grabbed a monster, poked his fingers up his nose, and then just span him round, and he's got like an attack. I swear if that attack isn't called the Snot Rocket, you're missing out there, Murata. But yes, just in general, Poison was really interesting as well, because I'd say Poison in particular because of his ability, like, he's got, like, such a close range, but his poison's so deadly, if it touches you, you die. Like, that's, despite being so low in C-Class, that's an incredibly powerful ability. And obviously, as we know in One Punch Man, you know, rank doesn't mean everything, seeing as I've said this multiple times, a guy who got kicked to the moon and jumped back is only in Class B, and he's far stronger than everyone else in the series. But yes, so it was awesome seeing all these different characters, and they've all got these different quirks and personalities, cool designs. I just love seeing this all. It was really interesting to see just all these other heroes have their moment to shine, because obviously as we get into the higher ends of the fights, they can try and help, but they're not going to be as much help, and we're going to have a massive focus on the S-Class heroes. Yeah. Oh, also, I should talk about Second Girl, because he's kind of you know, I think he's just someone who's obsessed with glory and wants to be famous because of his, like, history that we learned. So, like, he's obviously got his, like, executive beam, and then, like, he shoots a little weak laser out his eye, but then we hear that, you know, he applied to be a hero and he failed, so that's why he joined the Hero Association. So, he's always seemed to be constantly going after glory, so I imagine that's something with his character. Like, obviously, now, of course, he wanted to be there at the, attack, so he could be there, like, and he could basically get praise and love, and that's what he's after. He's after fame, and I don't think that's going to come great to him, because, you know, the best heroes aren't after fame, they're just out there to help people. So I think, like, this kind of speaks about him, and I'll be interested to see how this goes on in the future. Yeah. So despite this chapter being the longest so far, they very quickly and easily dispatch of all these monsters, and they even recognise, you know, this was too easy, and Child Emperor is straight away trying to think, like, what is Gyogoro up to, and more than anything, because he says at the very end, Gyogoro says at the end, I've got this all figured out, and I think it's safe to say that obviously that first wave was more than anything, like these two first waves were there to just kind of test the skills and to see the abilities of the heroes who come to the attack. So, because then he can obviously counterattack with the appropriate executives here and there. Because when he says I've got it all figured out, I imagine that's what he's on about, because obviously he gathers them at the end. We'll get to that at the end. Yes, and so the second wave of monsters arrives, and they are a lot more intimidating looking. They're a lot scarier looking than the ridiculous kind of monsters. They're like, there's a snake monster that looks pretty scary. They've all kind of got, a few of them have got like Japanese inspired designs, and then of course they all kind of, like, Rhino Wrestler shows up, and he, like, just his presence alone, like, causes them to, like, he's barging through monsters. Everyone's either like dying or getting out of the way of the other monsters, and I think that's just obviously to add intimidation factor to Rhino Wrestler, because if he's doing this, if he's like that, because if all these scary monsters are intimidated of him, it really sets the standard of Rhino Wrestler at the moment. So obviously he shows up and he's like, oh, puny humans, yada yada, and Violent Star, Needle Star, comes straight in with the Violent Star, obviously swinging around, and like, Rhino Wrestler is doing his point system again, where it's like 19 points, this was nothing, nothing to worry about at all. And then what I really like about this, obviously, is how he quickly takes down Needle Star. That wasn't the thing I liked. What I liked was how quickly Mizuki got into it. Like, I don't know, they must have had some kind, they must have some kind of relationship in the past, or like some kind of teamwork before, because she just knew, like, the moment, like, Needle Star went down, he retracted the spikes in the ball, and she just went for it with the shot put. Like, that was great. It was, I love seeing, like, combo moves like this in series, especially in One Punch Man. It's really rare because most of the heroes are quite arrogant and they don't really work together because they're all kind of looking out for number one. But, like, obviously that teamwork that is there. So obviously you got people like the Blizzard group, but I'm thinking more like last time we seed them. So like Funeral Suspenders and D-Pad when they fought the Bison robbers, and then he's literally just swinging him round by his suspenders. And then of course you've also got Bang and Bomb. I'll let that. I kind of don't want to count that one because obviously they're brothers and they do that. But like, you know, heroes working together, that's cool. I like that. Also, I did just like the little reveal that Needle Star used to be part of the Blizzard group. It's just something small and cool, and it's like it gives me more to his character, because like the moment he got serious, he was like, okay, suit's coming on, and I just like that. There was no need for him to reveal that, but it's just these small details that I enjoy, because you're like, oh, that's cool. Because up until now, I thought Needle Star would be some kind of would have some kind of connection to Metal Bat, but he doesn't. That was poor choice of mine. He was the bad boy of the Blizzard group. Interesting stuff to know, and just these kind of small details make characters feel more real. All the heroes go to attack Rhino Wrestler, and he's still like, you know, looking down on him until Ian shows up, and he manages to block it. Like, he blocks his horn, and he gives him the highest point so far, 69 points. And the thing is with this whole attack, obviously, it really kind of shows the difference between the classes, I suppose, because the C and B class heroes, they did whatever they could, and they tried to put up the good fight. You know, they had some great moves, so like Jet Nice Guy, of course, he's back, and he was alright before, and he had like that Jet Straight, that was awesome, and obviously, you know, my boy Narcisstoic, he just has the knuckle dusters on, the rose gold knuckle dusters. I love him. Yeah, they all had their moments, they all tried to do what they could. And it's only like, EI, I imagine, if he wasn't so fixated on the horn, because if you, like, literally every panel he's fighting, he's just constantly going after that horn, because I imagine that's what he prides himself on. He's like, you know, I need to break down that pride of his. Yeah, I imagine if he didn't, he probably could have beat him, because he is A-class rank 2. Like, he's one of the top people in the Hero Association. He's got, and obviously Atomic Samurai's top disciple. I could see him do that. Like, yeah. I think he could have taken down Rhino Wrestler, but he was too fixated on taking down the horn. So Atomic Samurai steps in and is like, listen, you're too stubborn. Despite that says a lot when Atomic Samurai, who's so stubborn, is like, obviously back in the Dark Invaders arc, where obviously he's just like, I'm just gonna keep cutting, and then, you know, just trying to tell him how to beat him. You know, that's probably why he was like that, because it was doing that. Also, what's his face? I don't know, Wolverine guy, he's like, someone should tell him to stop. And then he's just like, because he's that, like, he recognizes the gap difference between them, he's like, we need to get him to stop. And no, he could have just said, like, calm down. And then just like the look of Crescent Cutter just been like, are you serious? It was great. So Atomic Samurai has such, I loved it. Like, that moment was so good with Atomic Samurai, where like he just pulls out the sword, next page like, alright, we're done, let's move. And I just, the idea that it was so fast that we couldn't see it, like even the readers couldn't see what happened. It was so well done. It was, sorry, it was really good. I love that bit so much, like, because I think Like, obviously we knew Atomic Samurai was fast, and we knew he was going to take down Rhino Wrestler. Like, obviously, like, with the whole point system of being, like, you know, like, eventually getting to that 100-point attack that was going to defeat him, I kind of wished it would be Saitama, but this moment did not disappoint. Like, I just really like those moments in stories where, like, they just skip out a small bit of time and then you piece together in your head, because that moment where it clicks, what happens? You're like, wait. Oh, it was so great. And obviously, like, even Rhino Wrestler didn't realise it. No one realised it. Apparently, I imagine the S-Class heroes might have realised it, but everyone else was like, what, wait, what? So then obviously, like, bits of his body start to slip and he's like, damn it. Because at that point, Rhino Wrestler realised he's going to die. And he realises Giro tricked him because, as he said, like, I do believe that Rhino Wrestler was Demon Class. I don't see a problem with that. Obviously, he took on B and C Class heroes quite easily. And he went toe-to-toe with A-Class heroes. I think that's very fair to say. But obviously Giro tricked him, so I imagine this was all just to kind of see what he could do more than anything. Like, just to see, like I said, this is all part of Giro's plan to see what the heroes can do. So, obviously, like, it was just that great bit where as he walks away, just, like, instantly slicing the chunks, and we just see on Giro's, like, helicopter, on its little drone, just, like, the horn starts to slip. Just, like, that's great. Giro watched the whole thing, and Giro didn't care. He wasn't surprised. I keep saying he, I think Giro is a woman. She probably predicted that this whole thing would happen like this, and obviously it was to test the abilities. So obviously, as the rest of the Horde are there, you know, Atomic Samurai, he slices them all up. Beautiful panel, all the blood spraying everywhere, fantastic. And of course, with the rest of them there, we don't even, once again, to emphasize speed, we don't even see it, is Flashy Flash, just instantly taking down an entire group of them, you know? And a lot of small things like that. So, of course, we see, and just like, just seeing the S-Class heroes at work, it's good. It's entertaining to watch because, for example, the Psychic guy was going to get protected by Mizuki, and then Dark Alloy stepped in front of him. He's like, you guys need to look after yourselves, you okay? And then he just, without a care, he's not actually trying to attack, he just starts running through them, literally running, and he's just breaking everyone. It's entertaining, it's fun, it's good, I liked it. And then Puri Puri Prisoner has shown some massive growth as well, because as we see, as I've been informed, that monster that he fought was apparently the same strength as Deep Sea King, which is massive, because on top of obviously beating this monster, we also see that the way Puri Puri Prisoner beats him is in a combo with similar damage to the way Deep Sea King defeated him, with like the combo where it left the dents in his body. We see that very easily right there, and like obviously that's a massive step for how strong Puri Puri Prisoner has grown in this time. Obviously, I don't know what kind of training he's been through, but I suppose he's just been fighting a lot of monsters and trying to push his limits. So fair play to Puri Puri Prisoner, and that was just that great moment. It was like, if you've fallen for me, I wouldn't be surprised. And they're always like in the distance, and he's like, all right, you don't have to go back that far, that's fine. Just, it was great. And then of course we ended up with Tatsumaki fight with Jargon, tied up in a bag because he's trash, he's rubbish, you know, he's garbage compared to her, and she is, and you know. And Puri Puri tries to compliment him. He's like, yeah, wow, he actually held his form against you. And then she's like, I didn't feel anything. And then she just instantly destroys him. So, and then I think it gives a good chance to see, because obviously there's a lot of tension between the lower classes and the S-Class heroes. So a good chance for them to see, you know, why the S-Class heroes are the S-Class heroes, because they instantly demolish these kind of opponents. And like, a lot of them are like, oh, well, we're going to get these massive upgrades, but I think they'll start to respect the S-Class heroes a bit more, hopefully, throughout the Hero Association arc, because they'll be like, okay, we get why they're S-Class. So yeah, it was great. And then we saw Child Emperor's little gadget. Like, I want to see how he fights. We've seen he's got tools, but we haven't seen him in actual fight yet, so I'm very curious to see that as he takes down Giro's drone. Giro's got everything she needed to see. And then we end on that fantastic panel. I think I've covered everything before that. So she has gathered the Monster Association executives together, and that last panel is brilliant. We see a very clear lineup of most of them. Not all of them are there. Like the water tank isn't there, for example, but most of them are there. And that panel would have been fine on its own, but it's just made so much better with Orochi looking terrifying in the background, like his mouth open, jagged teeth, fire ablaze. It's so good. Genuinely, it makes me happy, and we get to see a clearer view of the Monster Association executives. And the person I'm most curious about is the person dressed up in a crown and with the robe, like the king person, because he's a human, right? So I imagine, just kind of like, it took me a bit to think about this, but which is stupid of me, because I should have realised sooner that he is probably someone who is on, like, the ninjas, or possibly Gyoro, where he has a human form, but he's so strong, he's got such control over it, he's also got a monster form as well that he can willingly transform into. And that's probably the best thing I can say, because he looks incredibly normal apart from that. And that says a lot about his strength, if despite that, he's at a dragon level. Like, his control, and he's definitely probably a lot apart from Black Sperm, who I've been informed is Black Sperm, he is probably the person I'm generally the most curious about, and I suppose the reason Gyoro gathered them is obviously just to kind of tell them, like, okay, you're going after this person, you're going after this person, like, because she started to see the capabilities of the S-class heroes, and she can make a proper judgment then. That last panel was beautiful. But yes, what did you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below. What are your predictions for I like to ask this a lot, I'm asking this a lot. Matchup predictions. What are your predictions for who's going to fight who? Because at this point, obviously, Gyoro doesn't really know about King and Genos and Bang as far as we know, so I can't imagine her not knowing about that soon, though. So yes. Yeah, what do you think? Who do you think is going to fight who? Any predictions? Obviously, webcomic spoilers, no thank you. I know it's deviating a lot, and like, I get this a lot, like, it's deviating a lot from it, but please, like, it's still following the webcomic, I imagine, as like as a basic guideline, so I imagine plot points are going to stay the same. So yes, certain plot points will stay the same, so please don't spoil that. But, hey, if you like this review, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, thank you for watching, comment, and let's talk. Uh-oh. Yeah, so thank you, I don't have anything to say. Bye.